Welcome, everybody, to another episode of The Open Source Entrepreneur. I am Casey Green, and this is my friend, beloved co host, Jimmy Norlander. Just basically two regular dudes that love business. We love growing businesses, owning businesses, and really what we want to do is share with people our excitement, get people pumped about different ways that they can make a living. Because there is far more than just traditional routes. Certainly that works for some people, but there's a variety of ways in which you can make money, in which you can build a lifelong career, something that brings you happiness and joy. And we are here to talk all about those. But Jimmy, today specifically, I wanted to talk a little bit about mental health. I know we talked about mental health last month with Mental Health Awareness Month, which is kind of general. But this one actually hits kind of close to home for me and for you because I don't know if you know this, but June is actually Men's Mental Health Month. And so I thought it'd be kind of cool to dig into specifically some issues that we as men have as we're trying to navigate the world of business, families, extracurricular activities, and just the things that stress us out in general. Because I'm going to share with you in just a minute some kind of staggering statistics about men's mental health. But Jimmy, talk to me about why just overall it might be really important for us to have a set aside month to specifically focus on men and their mental health.
Yeah, men, we're most likely not to seek mental health treatment. Rub some dirt on it, you'll be fine. Suck it up, buttercup, stop crying. Growing up, and I mean, if you're the same way, Casey, our generation was you don't talk about your feelings. It
Yeah,
was, forget about it, push it down, and just move on. Or if you're having a down day, just think good things and everything's going to be fine. So
yeah.
it's good to have a month dedicated to it because often men are less likely to seek treatment.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And let me actually just kind of drop on you some stats and then we'll jump into our conversation because these stats are staggering. So I'm going to read a couple of these off. These are from a variety of places. You can find them if you Google. This one's from the CDC back in 2023, but they said men die by suicide nearly 4 times more often than women. This one comes from the National Institute of Mental Health in 2022. It says suicide is the second leading cause of death for men ages 25 to 44. That hits home for me because I'm just outside of that bracket. I'm 45, and I definitely had some dark times through some of those years. Over 6 million men in the U.S. experience depression each year, yet many go undiagnosed. And that's kind of what you were saying, Jimmy. We're not very likely to seek help. Only 1 in 4 men who experience mental health struggles seek professional help. 1 in 4. 25%. That's failing in most places where I come from.
Yeah.
Men are less likely to talk about feelings due to stigma and cultural expectations. We talked a little bit about that. And the last one, men are more likely to turn to substance abuse to cope with emotional distress. So instead of talking about our feelings, we eat them, we drink them, we do whatever other than actually address the underlying issue. And so, Jimmy, I'm really excited to kind of dive into this a little bit. And just start out super basic. Why do you think men really don't talk about mental health?
I think we're just almost bred that way.
Okay.
Is provide for your family, be tough. You look at we love our basketball, we love our physical contact sports, we love getting our hands dirty, fishing, hunting, whatever it might be. We're supposed to be that manly man. You look at movies. I mean, movies don't portray men crying and hugging, when they're tired or sad. Spider-Man doesn't have down days. Batman doesn't have down days. And so I think we, as a society, we just aren't taught that it's okay to express your emotions.
Yeah, and so I agree. We kind of have a man up culture, right? Like
Hmm.
you better figure it out. You better pull up your bootstraps. You better get going. And I think when we put enough of those kind of instances together, it's very easy for us to get down. And I think it's very easy, as the stats indicated, to turn to substance abuse, to turn to things that are going to be more damaging long term. And my guess is we find a way to justify those, right? It starts small and then it just grows and grows and grows until it's something that can't be controlled and interventions have to be made. Um,
Well, I mean,
I'm
look at
cu-
when we're parents too. I mean, compared to, I got two boys, two girls. My little girl falls, it's like, okay, hey, come here. Are you okay? And when my little boy falls, just get up. You're fine.
yeah, yeah, I agree. It's one of those things that almost is seems like it's passed down from father to son, father to son. And sometimes it takes a very strong man to break the cycle and to say, you know what, it's okay to need help. And that's what I've actually tried to instill in my kids to say, hey, listen, it's okay to raise your hand and say, I don't understand, I don't feel good, I need some help, and try to show them that that's not a sign of weakness. Jimmy, how are some ways that we can help institute that into the up and coming generation, or even as adult males? How do we buck the stigma that we can't get help? How do we make it okay and safe for people to say, I am not okay and I need help?
Just being open and honest about it. I see guys in my clinic, and even then, they're more hesitant to be like telling their friends or coworkers that they're getting therapy. And so I think it's being okay with therapy. We're never shy when we go to the doctor and be like, oh, hey, I had strep throat or, pneumonia. They put me in an antibiotic. But for some reason, when it's mental health, we're more hesitant to say anything. So when we're more open and honest about it, more people are recognizing it and realize, okay, I'm not alone. So and so has depression, so and so struggles in their marriage, whatever it might be. And once you realize that once you can relate with other people and the struggles that they're going through, you're more likely just to communicate with others.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing that I think we need to understand as people in general, but Mel specifically, that I think helps buck the trend a little bit, is that we don't have to wait until we are in a super dark place to get some help. Matter of fact, Jimmy, I would venture a guess that you love to see people who are kind of teetering on that spot where they're like, okay, a couple more bad days, this could be really bad. I better get in and get some help now. And I wish I could stress the importance of people of getting in and getting help early versus letting things spiral and become a big deal. Talk to me a little bit about the difference in treatment when somebody has completely bottomed out versus like, okay, something I put together during the bad days. Maybe it's good for me to talk to somebody. What's kind of the difference in treatment plans? What does that look like? And why would it be better for somebody to come see you earlier rather than later?
Let's compare it to your car. Do you know if you know you're having issues with your car, is it better to get your car in to get it fixed sooner than later, or is it best to let the engine just blow?
Yeah.
And our mental health exactly the same way. If we're gonna wait till we hit rock bottom, then it's gonna sometimes it's harder to build that back up. But if you're feeling down, you feel like, okay, I don't like the way I'm feeling, I don't like the way this is trending. You can get in earlier, you're able to catch the signs, the symptoms, you understand them a lot better, and you're able to get the tools a lot faster before you start hitting those down moments. So, like I said, it's like with the car. If you get your car in to go get fixed, you're like, man, I got it in just in time before that engine blew, compared to, man, I wish I would have got my engine in, or I wish I would have got my car in sooner. So our mental health is similar to that.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. I mean, like you think about an engine, think about tires, right? If you're going on a road trip, you want to make sure your tires are looking good. You want to make sure that your oil is just right. But we ignore our own tire pressure, right? We ignore our own oil, and we let that get really, really dangerously low until something catastrophic happens. Part of this, Jimmy, I
And
think
it goes
that
back to one of your questions, like people getting help. Let's compare the cars again with our neighbor. It's easy to say, "Hey, your tire's getting low," or "Hey, your brake light's out," or something doesn't sound right. It's easier to say that to our neighbor about their car, but yet it's hard for us to reach out to them and say, "Hey, something just seems off right now. Are you doing okay?"
Yeah, and I actually think I was just gonna ask that. I was gonna say, how do we help? You mentioned neighbors, right? And especially in Utah and other places, there's a lot of strong community ties. A lot of people in our neighborhood know each other very well because of religious activities. We all go to the same church. How are you able, and how can you help somebody when you look at them and you're like, something's off? How do you approach that conversation? Ideally, it's your friend, right? Ideally, it's somebody you know, and you're like, hey, are you okay? Is something wrong? What's a really good way for like man to man, dude to dude to step into that conversation without feeling like we're poking or we're being nosy? I'm sure there are people who are like, you can just flat out ask them, right? But how do we approach that cautiously?
I think just being honest and loving about it. You know someone, so you know how they're going to respond, and they know you care. So walking up to the individual and just saying, "Hey, I noticed you've been quiet a little bit the last couple days. Is everything okay?" Just asking the question, and then that gives the other person freedom to either say yes or no. They could be saying, I just haven't slept the last couple days, so I'm just tired. Or they could say, do you know what? Yeah, things are hard at home, or I just lost my job, whatever it might be. But just asking them, showing that you care, and then giving them the opportunity to respond.
Yeah, I love that. One thing, Jimmy, that I also wanted to mention briefly is I remember seeing some ads in or billboards, I guess rather, as I was driving to work, and it made me think a little bit because I think not every state is as pro gun as we are. Certainly, there are some. A lot of people have guns in our neck of the woods, and knowing that 1 in 4 men or men are 4 times as likely, and 1 in 4 men between 25 and 45 or 40, whatever that was, commit suicide. How do you breach that conversation of saying, "Hey, I know you have guns. Like, would you like me to hold those? Do you feel safe? Where are you at?" Is that a conversation that we should be having? I have some friends that I think about that frequently, and I'm like, I know that they're teetering frequently, and I'm like, man, do I need to have that conversation? Like, hey, let me have your firearms for a while until you feel safe. Is that a conversation we should worry about? Is that something that we should approach? Is that case by case basis? How do we help keep people safe?
It's case by case. It's nice to say if someone says, I'm feeling suicidal, I'm feeling down, to ask, do you have a plan? And they have a plan, then that's a whole different level. It's like, okay, you have a plan, let's get you some help. If
Yeah,
they say, do you know what? No, I'm just feeling down. I'm thinking about it. I'm not going to act about it. I got my family still. To still say, okay, I know you do have guns in the home. If you need me to take them just until you feel back to your baseline normal, let me know. I'm more than happy to take them, but I'm here if you need me.
yeah. What do you think? What do you think, Jimmy? I think as I'm going to say society in general, especially here in the States. I've been looking a lot recently about the differences in work culture, kind of work life balance between other international countries versus the States, right? Frequently in the States, I think I saw the average time off for companies like 2 weeks for the year. Right, we generally in the states are have gotten to a spot, especially with the advent of cell phones, where we're always on. Right, we generally don't get to leave work at work. We bring it home with us. We take it on vacations with us. I am guilty of saying, I'm just going to check in a little bit every day, make sure everything's okay. And we've kind of built ourselves into this quote unquote hustle culture where we're never off. We're always like slightly divided between work and home. What are the hidden costs of doing this, of not being able to disconnect and enjoy time with our family, enjoy hobbies, enjoy vacations because we feel like we have to be plugged in? What is that doing to our mental health?
You're neglecting the things that you're working for. And it can be overwhelming. You can feel like maybe I'm a bad father because I have to work all the time. I can't give my kids the attention that they need. But if you're constant, some people, but here's the thing is some people enjoy working too. So we can't just say just because you work a lot, it's going to lead to your mental health. It's just knowing the signs of when too much is too much. So it could be it's interfering with your marriage, it's interfering with your kids, your work. You're spending more time working than you are socializing. And so it's just taking it case by case. I don't want people to think if you work a lot, it's going to affect your mental health, but realizing the signs of burnout that could lead to mental health issues.
That's fair, because yes, there are certain people at different phases, right? I think frequently as young as younger as you're just getting started in your career, maybe it's a time to hustle a little more, right? But I think you're correct in knowing the signs of when you're approaching burnout. What are some common signs that you see when people are hitting burnout phase?
For men, easily agitated, maybe more upset than they normally would, tired. They just want to take naps. They don't want to be home, because when they're home, they don't want to show that weakness. Like I'm tired. Every time I go home, I get upset. I explode with my kids. That guilt and shame that goes with it. And so just noticing things that are off that normally would not be. And then that's where that communication comes into with maybe with a spouse or a child or your neighbor saying, "Hey, I'm noticing things that are a little bit different than normal. Are you okay?"
Okay, we're hitting burnout phase. How do we combat that? We know we're getting agitated. We know we're getting short. We're snapping at the children, and we step back and we're like, "Whoa!" Like I'm a different person than I was last week, 2 weeks ago, 6 months ago. and you have that reckoning. How do we course correct that?
Noticing it and then coming up with a plan. It might not be an easy one. It might be, if you can, do you know what? When I do get home, I am going to put my phone right there. Or I'm just going to work. I'll go work for these hours. I'll get the projects that I need done that I can control, and then put yourself before work. Too often we think, hey, I can't leave work till I'm all caught up, not realizing work is sometimes like our power bill. You're never caught up. You
Yeah.
pay for what it is, but then it's still accumulating. Having those boundaries between work and your personal life, so you're able to say, I'm done for the day. Now I can just focus on myself.
Yeah, one thing I saw a quote a while ago, or a scenario a while ago, I guess I should say, that said something like, if you were to pass away for whatever reason, your company would not skip a beat in hiring somebody new. So why are you killing yourself to take
Hmm.
care of the company who's going to do you like that? And that really hit hard to me. It's like, man, and by the way, companies will allow you to do that. They will say, we love this person there. Matter of fact, when I left my last job and moved on to the job I currently have, when they hired my replacement, they said, "Oh man, we love this lady because she never stops working." And they were so excited that she was always on, never stopped working. And to be fair, like I did the same thing, right? Like that was the culture in that company. But it's one of those things that the company will let you do that. You have to set the boundaries. I heard an interview today where a lady said, the question was, "Hey, what do you do when somebody sits down and you're interviewing them for a job?" And the first question they ask is, "What's your work-life balance?" She said, "I dismiss that person right away because that is on themselves to come up with their own work-life balance. We're no longer a society that's like a 9 to 5, right? We are on a lot." And it's up to you to control yourself. You're a big person. Like if you need to take care of yourself, take care of yourself, right? And I think we still are stuck in that grind that gets us to burnout. Um,
Well, and you think about your company that you're at when they're like, okay, Casey, do you know he's a workaholic, he's a big asset to this company. And when you hear that as an individual, what does that do? That gives you more feedback. Okay, I need to work harder. I can't take a break because if I do, I don't want to disappoint my employer. And
yeah.
so just that positive feedback of, okay, you're a good worker, you're a hustler, whatever it might be, it feeds into us like, well, man, to get this positive reinforcement, this is the person I have to become. And to become this, I can't take any breaks.
Yeah, excuse me. Um, so I think, Jimmy, what it boils down to is we have to do a little better job of controlling ourselves. I think we have to redefine who we are and what we stand for. If you could kind of custom make or redefine what a strong man would look like today, what would you call that? What would that look like for you?
Oh my goodness. I mean, not me, that's for sure, because everything I'm saying, the things you need to do, I still struggle with. And so I don't know. If I could do a strong man in today's day, I don't know because everyone is completely different. I would think a strong man today would be just somebody who can equal out that balance as much as you can. Where they're not letting the things that they can't control them and focusing on what they can do. So maybe it might be spending time with their family, whatever it might be, but not letting things that they can't control them. I don't know if that even made sense. We might want to
Yeah,
edit that part out.
no, I'm definitely keeping it, but it's all I believe you're right. I think it's learning how to control the controllables. There are things in our lives that we can't control, right? Because of somebody else or whatever the situation may be. But I think frequently we don't remember to control the controllables. I can control when I leave work. I can control when I show up. I can control my attitude. These are all things that I can control. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it takes practice. But I think you're right. If we can master the controllables in our life, I think we begin to be in a much better place. When we draw lines and we say, no, I'm not going to allow work to dictate what the rest of my day looks like. I'm not going to allow work to put me in a bad mental state. I'm not going to allow my coworkers who hopefully you love. But if you hate, right, I'm not going to let that affect my mood because we can control all those situations. And I got news for you. As scary as it is, if your job has that much control over you, maybe it's time to find a new job, right? Maybe it's time to control that situation and leave.
And go back to myself, I own my own practice, is controlling what I can control. I might not have as many clients come in one week as the other or one month over the other, and realizing, okay, I can't control that part. I'm doing as much as I can to get what I can to bring clients come in. And if I have a down month, not letting that control me and put me into that spiral, realizing, okay, I had a bad month. I can't control that part, but this is what I can do to make it so it does not affect me.
Yeah. Well, and to be fair, there are things I think especially as business owners, it's like okay, I need to set aside for a rainy day, right? So, for example, like my wife and I, we have some rental properties, and when we do that, we put aside money every month from that rent in case something happens. Like, guess what? We had a house in Florida that just had an AC coil go out. They needed to replace it because the tenants can't be without AC in Florida,
Hmm.
and so we had the means, we had the money set aside to take care of that. So I think as men, we need to begin to build up our emotional bank accounts. We need to be able to begin to build up things, a toolkit that will allow us to overcome and combat different obstacles, different darts that are coming our way. Jimmy, talking about a toolkit, for lack of better words, what would you hope that all the men have in their toolkit to allow them to be mentally strong?
Fishing pole.
A fishing pole. I love it.
Honestly, something that you love doing. Um, and it sounds dumb, but just something that you can focus on. Mine, it really is fishing pole.
Yeah.
I have an awesome spouse where, do you know what? If I'm having a hard day, struggle day, I just text her, I'm going fishing. And that gets me into the right mindset where I need to do it. So to help us become strong, just still have that connection of things that you enjoy doing. Because as men, sometimes we get so focused on our work and providing that we lose focus on the things that we love because we're putting everything else before we're putting things um everything else before us instead of taking care of us also. So still stick with things that you love and enjoy.
Yeah, I agree. So I think finding something like something you love and enjoy, right? A release of some sort, fishing, whatever that looks like. There are some massive studies that say if you're able to get outside, especially in the early morning or kind of late afternoon sun, and soak up some of that vitamin D, like before it's like sunburn phase, right? Like that helps a ton. Get out and get grounded in nature, right? Take your shoes off, touch earth. A lot of people swear by that. I agree, Jimmy. Find a hobby or something that can be a release for if you get rejuvenized by being around people, be around people, even if you're not feeling good, right? Like right now, I'm actually in a spot in my life where normally I like to be around people, but I found myself withdrawing just a little bit because of some of the things I have going on in my life, and that can be potentially dangerous, right? So inserting yourself into where other people are. I would also say like find a really solid morning routine. I know that I hear influencers talk about this all the time, but there's something super refreshing about knowing I'm going to wake up and perform a certain amount of tasks and really check off a lot of things early in the morning that does something to the rest of my day. Jimmy, I don't know if you noticed this, but like if I don't get to the gym in the morning as one of my checklist items, my day's not quite the same. I don't have
Hmm.
that same burst of energy. I feel like I'm missing something. And so creating a solid morning routine is something you can add to your toolkit. Even a solid nighttime routine, right? Like, what do you do when you come home? How do you spend time with your family? Maybe it's your family that loves to watch TV. Well, be present with them. I've been guilty of sitting at home. My family's watching TV. I'm on my phone, responding to emails, or not even just being present, right? And my sweet wife has called me out on that, and I need to do a better job about being present with my family, right? So there's a lot of things that you can add to your toolkit, and it's going to look different for everybody. But I would encourage you to say, what are the 3 or 4 things that I need in my toolkit to be happy and healthy? Jimmy, how do we redefine that getting therapy, right? We have a nice toolkit, and let's assume it's not working, or maybe it is working to some degree, but how do we redefine that going to therapy isn't a weakness, it's like a strategic thing in our life that we need to be doing?
Yeah, I'm using the same analogy, with our health. we take pride in our health because something doesn't seem physically right. I mean, my shoulder hasn't been working for like 6 months, so I'm gonna go to the doctor, make sure it's okay. Taking priority in that mental health, realizing like, do you know what? I don't like the way I feel emotionally, mentally, and so I'm just gonna go just talk to a professional about it just to see if I am okay.
Yeah,
And sometimes that's all it takes is just letting someone else know that you're not doing okay. It's okay to say, I'm not okay right now. It's okay to say, I need a break. It's okay to say, I could use someone to talk to,
yeah.
and then giving yourself permission to do that, and then letting someone validate your emotions.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one thing that maybe this will be helpful for people. I know that when I first started seeing a therapist, I really resonated with the idea of saying, and it's not quite the same, right? But it's like, and I don't mean to cheapen one side or the other, but sometimes in my head, I made it make more sense, or made me feel better if I said, "Oh, I'm going to see my life coach, or I'm going to see a marriage mentor," right? Like something like that to help me feel a little bit better about what I was doing in the beginning. Matter of fact, right now, my wife and I we're doing therapy right now. We're doing some tune-ups, right? Like our communication is just a little off, and so we want to make sure that we are in it for the long haul. So before things break, right, before that engine gets catastrophic, we said let's just get a tune-up, right? And I'll be honest, it's hard for me, and I realize that if it's going to work, it's something that you have to lower your guard. You have to play all in. And matter of fact, we had a session just yesterday where I said, you know what, let me like just lay it on the table for you, right? And our lovely therapist was like, oh, she's like, okay, that helped a ton, right? She like understands, and she's like, I get that you don't want to be here, but I appreciate you for opening and being vulnerable and coming to play a little bit in this game to be made whole, right? Because I think we have to remember we go to therapy to get better. I tease Jimmy, pretty frequently that like he's actually trying to like get rid of clients, which is not something that most businesses want to do. But that's how you know you're doing a great job, right? Is if you're able to help these people progress to a spot where they don't need it, and then they can come in for those occasional tune-ups. Um, what do you wish, Jimmy, that we would be able to pass on to younger generations, right? Like I'm mid 40s. I think you're my same age or a little younger than me. I'm 45. How old are you?
45.
45, same age. What, like, as we look at our children, what are the things that we should try to break? What are the stigmas we should try to break, and not pass on the, I'm not going to say toxic traits, but kind of the harmful ones that don't allow us to admit that we need help.
Sorry, broke up. Say it one more time.
What do you hope that we can pass on to younger generations? We can help the young men learn as they're growing up that will help them be more well-rounded.
I think the things that we learned from, and I think it's getting better and better and better, where, you know, back in the 60s, it was all about you show zero emotions whatsoever. And I think it's taking the things that we wish we would have learned, like say, I wish my dad would have been like, do you know what? It's okay to talk about your emotions, or it's okay to cry. If you got hurt, it's okay to cry emotionally, physically, whatever it might be. And passing that on to our kids. And with that, letting our kids see that it's okay. Because we can say things all we want, but if they don't witness it from us, then it's hard for them to put that into reality.
Yeah. I agree. I think if I had one wish for the younger generation, it would be it's okay to ask for help, and that's
Yeah.
what I try to tell my kids all the time. Like whether it's school, whether it's a project, whatever it is, right? Because I think as kids, they're frequently like, "No, I want to do it myself," right? Which there's a valuable part to learning, but I fear that they get in over their head, and then it creates some dynamic issues farther down the road that just makes it so they don't want to ask for help, right? And so my wish for parents and for kids is like to know that it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to ask for help from the right people. I frequently tell my daughter, I said, I tell her, I say, listen, like I'm glad that you have friends that will talk to you, but please make sure you talk to us if it's something that gets out of your control. Don't give advice to somebody that you haven't gone through that you can't fix, right? And so that's my recommendation, right? Is that like get help from people who have been through what you're going through. I wouldn't imagine I'd want to take business advice from somebody who's operated 100 failed businesses, right? Maybe they've learned some great lessons, but I want to ask for advice for people who are successful in doing the things that I want to be doing. And so it's finding help in the right places for me, I think, is what I'd like to talk to them about.
And I
Um,
think to add on to that too is listening to our kids. Because
yeah,
I think our kids' generation does a lot better now at coming to us as parents when things are off, and as parents not saying, "Oh, okay," like
yeah,
and not validating their emotions. It's more like, "Okay, let's talk about this. What's going on?" Because we gotta fix that stigma in ourselves. Like, hey, our kids are coming to us. We need to let them know they're validated, because if we just brush it aside, then they are going to go talk to their friends and they're going to get that advice that we probably normally would not give them.
yeah. Yeah, Jimmy, I'm just about wrapped up here, but I do have just one more question that I think some people may want to know. And that question really is, when do we look for some potential medication to help us with our problems versus just going to a therapist and chatting?
Do you know what? Go, that's what the therapist is for. Like I'm the first person to say, do you know what? Medications are overprescribed. I mean, you tie your shoes wrong and there's a medication for it, there's a diagnosis for it. But a good therapist is going to say, give you tools, but then also say, do you know what? Why don't we just get you on some, like, why don't you, let's get you on some medications to at least get you over this hump, get you to where you want to be. And then after that, let's see where things are at. I've
Yeah,
had plenty of clients where we've got them on medications and they've done really well. We've got them through their trauma. And after their trauma, they got off their medications and they were completely great. They just needed to get over that hump. And I've had other clients say they got over their trauma, the medication really helped. They got off their medications and they were like, I don't like this feeling. And so they got right back on their medications again. So it's having a good therapist or a good doctor to know when to bring it up and when not to bring it up. Because we just live in a world where some people are like, I just don't want to take a medicine. They give you a pill for everything. And if you're good at your job, you can say, do you know what? We've tried all these things. Maybe it's time to take you to a different, let's try a different outlet. And I'm rambling on this. It's kind of like, let's go back to the mechanics. Sometimes we fix our own car, and we're like, okay, it's just not working. What's going on? We just need to take it to a professional to look at it for us.
yeah, I agree. I'm going to come to you for parting words in just a minute, Jimmy. These would be mine. I wish everybody knew that it's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to not get help. If you are struggling, if you put together a couple days, a couple weeks, a couple months that just seem to get progressively worse, please don't be one of those statistics. Please get help. Reach out to a family member, a friend, someone who loves you to make sure that you get the appropriate care that you need. There are a ton of options to help, not only like here in Utah, but nationally. Jimmy, if you wouldn't mind, in your closing thoughts, just drop numbers for suicide hotlines and places that people can get help. I know there's a variety of apps and things that you've mentioned before, and I hate to put you on the spot, but if you have those in your closing thoughts, please share those with us. But guys, we love you. We need you. Check on your friends and make sure that they're getting the help that they need. We love you. We care for you. Jimmy, please take us home with your closing thoughts.
Do you know what? Yeah, I mean, worst comes to worst, talk to talk to your friend, go to the hospital, check in and say, do you know what? It's okay. You can also dial star 988. I believe that's the suicide hotline. And then let's see, let me look it up really quick. Oh yeah, the text crisis line. You can just text home to 741-741. It's nationwide, and there'll be somebody there to help you.
Yeah, there are abundant resources. Please get help if you need it. Even if you need a tune up, make sure you reach out to a friend, to a therapist. Get in and see somebody. It's very inexpensive. They can be qualified professionals, can be found everywhere. Of course, if you're in Utah, I would definitely recommend Deseret Counseling. Jimmy,
Always.
man, Jimmy and his counselors are amazing. Helped multiple members in my family to get back on a good path. So I can't thank you enough, Jimmy, for dropping some knowledge, especially around men's mental health for this Mental Health Awareness Month. Guys, check on your loved ones. Thanks. Appreciate y'all. Have a good night.
Awesome. See you guys.